Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really insightful report from Virtualization Options LLC. It's all about how you, as a leader, can build a digital fortress to protect your company's most critical assets. So let's jump right in. Think about it for a second. Your company is facing threats, every single day. And the report we're looking at today really puts it into perspective with one simple but honestly pretty powerful question. Is your digital front door just unlocked? All right, so let's start building this digital fortress. Where do we begin? Well, the first and most critical step is all about protecting the main gate, right? And that main gate, it's your team's online identities. Every single login is a potential weak spot. So who's guarding this gate? That brings us to the modern gatekeeper, the password manager. We're going to break down exactly why this tool is absolutely essential for your defense. Okay, so when it comes to password managers, you've got a really interesting choice to make. Think of it like this. Do you want a castle vault or a secure bank? The castle vault is all about keeping your secrets right there on your device. You get maximum privacy, total control, but you're responsible for everything, including backups. On the other hand, the secure bank is cloud-based. It's super convenient, syncs across all your devices automatically, but you're trusting that provider's security. It's a classic trade-off between control and convenience. A really good gatekeeper does so much more than just, hold the keys. It's actually got 4 key jobs. First, it has to create crazy strong random passwords, the kind that are practically impossible to crack. Second, it locks those passwords up tight in an encrypted vault. Third, it makes life easier by automatically filling in logins, which saves time and stops typos. And finally, it has to sync everything seamlessly and securely across all the devices your team uses. And this really gets to the heart of the matter. Your secrets have to be unreadable to everyone but you. It's the core principle of a strong fortress. It's not just about having a locked door. The walls themselves have to be impenetrable. And that brings us to the magic that makes it happen: encryption. So, what kind of encryption are we talking about? Well, there's a gold standard here, and it's totally non-negotiable. It's called AES 256. Just remember that name. It's literally military-grade stuff. What it means is, even if a hacker managed to break into your provider's systems, a total worst-case scenario, your data would just be a jumbled, unreadable mess. It's a locked box they can't open. Okay, so we've got a strong gatekeeper and an unbreakable vault. We're doing pretty well. But what if we added another layer, a second check right at the door? That's exactly where authenticators come in. I love this analogy. Think of it as the secret handshake. Even if someone steals your password, the key, they still can't get in without that handshake. Now, for that secret handshake, you've basically got 3 flavors to choose from. First up, you have your classic OTP generators, those little 6-digit codes. They're simple, they work offline, but yeah, you have to type them in. Then there's push-based authentication. This is where you just get a notification on your phone and tap approve. It's more secure, super easy, but you do need an internet connection. And finally, you have biometrics, your fingerprint or face. That's the most secure for sure, but it depends on having the right hardware. So it's all about balancing how much security you need with what's actually practical for your team day to day. And no matter which type of authenticator you go with, there are 4 features that are absolute must-haves. Think of this as your checklist. Obviously, it needs to support 2-factor authentication. That's the whole point. But it also needs to sync across multiple devices. It has to have a solid backup and recovery option because you do not want your team getting locked out. And finally, it needs to work everywhere on all the platforms you use. Get these 4 right, and you've moved from just a security gadget to a real business solution.
All right, so we know what we need, right? A gatekeeper and a secret handshake, the password manager and the authenticator. But who do we get them from? This is a huge step. It's time to choose your guards, to really vet the companies you're going to trust with your fortress keys.
So when you're doing your homework on a password manager provider, here's what you absolutely have to look for. Number 1, reputation. Have they been independently audited by security experts? Number 2, that end-to-end AES 256 encryption we talked about, it's a deal breaker. Number 3, and this is a big one, do they practice what they preach? They must use 2-factor authentication to protect their own service. And finally, they need to give you tools to see what's going on, to audit weak or reuse passwords on your team. You have to remember, trust is earned, not given. And with authenticators, you run into another one of these big strategic choices. It's kind of like open source versus proprietary. Do you go with an open source tool where the code is public and it's audited by the whole community? That's all about transparency. Or do you choose a proprietary commercial tool? The code is a black box, but you might get slicker features or better integrations.
There's really no wrong answer here. It just comes down to what your organization values more, transparency or a potentially more polished product.
Okay, so what's the end game here? What's the dream scenario for your team? It comes down to this number, 1. That's how many times a user should have to sign in, just once a day. When you integrate these tools properly, you get what's called seamless single sign-on, or SSO, and that's the holy grail, really. Security becomes practically invisible, and your team can just get back to work. So you've done the research, you've picked your tools, you've chosen your providers. But a fortress, it doesn't defend itself. Now comes the hard part, manning the walls. It's time to actually roll this out and put your security plan into action. And the report lays out a really clear 4-point defense plan for this. First, you evaluate the providers, using that checklist we talked about. Step 2, you don't just go all in. You run a pilot test with a smaller group. Step 3, and this is so important, you train your users. Not just how to use the tools, but why you're doing this. And step 4, you monitor, constantly. This isn't a one-and-done project. It's a new, permanent state of defense. And there's a quote from the Virtualization Options LLC report that I think just hits the nail on the head. Encouraging user adoption is crucial for their effectiveness. Think about that. You can build the strongest, most expensive fortress in the world, but if your guards don't know the rules or just don't follow them, it's useless. Getting your team to actually use these tools and understand why they're important is just as critical as the tech itself. So let's wrap this up with the big takeaways. What should you remember from all this? First, real comprehensive security isn't optional anymore. It's non-negotiable. Second, if you want people to actually use the tools, the experience has to be great. That's what drives adoption. Third, the best defense you have is making smart, informed decisions. And finally, when you integrate these tools, you get the best of both worlds, stronger security and a more productive team.
Look, the hard truth is that your fortress will be tested. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So the final question this report leaves us with is this: are your defenses ready for what's coming tomorrow? By really taking a strategic approach to these two foundational tools, you're not just protecting your organization for today, you're building a defense that's ready for whatever comes next.